Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Imola, round 15 of the FI Motocross World Championship. This is the MXGP of Italy, and welcome to our live studio show on MXGP TV with myself, Lisa Leyland. We've got Calvin Villanoren in place as well, and later on in the show, we have Adam Wheeler and Hans Corvers coming in to join us. But before we talk to our first guest, Calvin Villanoren is taking big, deep breaths. Not nervous, are you, Cal?
No, I'm good.
Lisa, here we are again in Italy for what seems like the 9th time this year.
10th time.
Yeah. But more importantly, the end is in sight. 4 rounds to go. What do you make of it all now, and what can we expect this weekend?
Well, this weekend we're expecting the climax, aren't we, of MXGP? Possibly a title being claimed in MXGP. So it's the moment we've all been waiting for all year. So that could happen. It's going to be a big weekend, isn't it?
Well, that brings us nicely to our first guest, Calvin Villanoren, Team HRC. We just said big weekend for Team HRC. How is the mood in the camp over there at the moment?
It's good. Every weekend is good. Obviously, Tim is close to winning the title now this weekend. It's been coming for a while, I think. He's had quite a big lead for quite a few GPs, so I think it's time he wraps it up.
And obviously, being around all of that, is there a sense from you thinking, man, it could have been me? Because, you came into the first Grand Prix as a title challenger, and then...
Of course. I still think about it now. It's cool to see Tim winning every weekend, but it's also tough for me because I know that I can also do that. And I also want to, it's a little bit of jealousy because I also want to be winning and I also want to be winning the title, So, like you said, coming into the year, I was a little bit of a title favorite, and that hasn't really shown in the GP. So, it's tough, but it's motocross and it is what it is.
Well, Calvin, let's take a look back at the beginning of the season for you. You were 3rd in the championship after 3 rounds. But then disaster struck, and we've just got a clip here. It must have been devastating for you at that stage.
Yeah, it was devastating. Actually, everything was going quite to plan. I didn't want to rush in the beginning of the season. Like you said, I was 3rd in the championship and feeling quite comfortable. I didn't feel like I was 100% at that time, and I was just getting better. Like in Arco, when I did injure my foot, I did feel like I was peaking, starting to peak then, and it was just unfortunate that that I tweaked my ankle and was out for a few rounds. And obviously that puts you quite a few weeks back with training and everything like that. So it's tough to come back from an injury, but I think I've done quite well to come back from that and get a few podiums after my injury.
Well, you tried to ride in Mantova, but by Portugal you were forced to sit out for 5 rounds, like you mentioned. Even the top 3 then at that stage was out of sight for you, wasn't it? Yeah,
sure. I mean, if I look back now at the points and everything, I think you can always say what if and whatever, but if I wasn't injured, I think I could be battling for top 3, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, as we said, 3 4th place finishes over, in the first 3 rounds, 3rd overall in the championship going on to there. When you're in that kind of form and you're just building, as a rider, there's nothing worse than injury, is there? You do all that winter prep, all that testing, everything is going well. How did you remain positive throughout the whole process of being off the bike for those 4 or 5 rounds?
It's difficult to stay positive, obviously, when you're going through a tough time. I remember a few years ago with my elbow and my wrist injury, that really hit me mentally because, you're like, do you want to do this? Do you want to hurt yourself? I mean, for me personally, I take the risk every time I get on the track, get on my bike, that there's a possibility of crashing and getting injured. I think all riders, you need to mentally accept the risk of getting injured, and you have to get past that.
Well, for you, 2 podiums in the past 4 rounds in Samarang and Lommel last weekend. So on a positive, you're showing that kind of form that we all expected from you at the beginning of the season, and that's something, right, isn't it?
Exactly. I think... like you said, I can always say what if, whatever, but I think if I didn't get injured, you would see that the whole season consistently in the top 5 and battling for podiums every weekend.
Obviously, 2 podiums, as I said, with this one in Samarang, completely different conditions. Obviously, hot and humid and a hard-packed, slick surface. And then last weekend, 2 weeks ago, we were in Lommel, Belgium, deep sand. So from that side, you've shown you're an all-rounder. You can do, you can get the results in all kind of conditions. How important was the podium last week in Lommel, especially? Because as a rider myself, as an ex-rider, that's almost like the Monaco of motocross GP. It's the one you want to win or be on the podium because it's the most difficult race.
Yeah, everyone calls it the most toughest race in the world, Lommel GP, and to get a podium there, I did it once in Europeans, but to do it in World Championship level is another story. And to get it done a few weeks ago was awesome. Obviously, a lot of the teams look at that, you know, are you training? Because only the fittest will be on the podium at the end of the day. And to get a podium, it was great. And to show that I'm strong and you know, I'm ready to fight with these guys.
And so what's the plan now then? 4 rounds to go. You've obviously shown that you can run up front, you can get on the podium. Championship's gone, top 3's done. Is it now just to try and win races and just finish as strongly as possible?
Exactly. You know, still working hard, still training as hard as I can, still doing what I need to do. The goal is just to just do as best as I can, obviously to try to get podiums and race wins. Jorge is riding really good. It's going to be tough, but I think it's possible as long as I get some good starts. And I know I have the speed to run up there, so if I get good starts and feel myself out there on the track, I think I can definitely fight for some race wins, and definitely podium is the goal every weekend.
Yeah.
All right, well, look, more from you in just a moment. Let's show you a little competition we've got. How would you like to win this weekend with Twin Air? Well, here's how. All you've got to do to win a Twin Air Powerflow kit is predict the top 3 overall in the MXGP class this weekend, and the Powerflow kit could be on its way to you. Look for this graphic on our social media pages or in the news items on mxgp.com. Click the link, fill out the form. It's as easy as that. You will also win the MXGP TV Season Pass and access code for the new MXGP video game. So good luck with that. And, yeah, great to see a competition out there again. But, Calvin, we'll come back to you. 4 rounds to go, as we said. We've got Sweden next week, then we go to Turkey, China, and then obviously at the end of the month, September, we are at Assen for the FIM Monster Energy Motocross of Nations. Last year was your first time on the team with the Netherlands. Didn't turn out so great for you, obviously, but the Netherlands got on the podium. Is this also now like the bigger picture that you're looking for? Stay healthy up until then and try and do a good job for the Netherlands if you're picked, which you should be.
Definitely. I mean, Motocross of Nations is one thing, but also the World Championship is another thing. I mean, first the goal is to finish off the World Championship strong, and then we look to the Nations. You know, I try to take each weekend at a time, and obviously Motocross of Nations is in sight and it's coming soon. So we are working for that, and it should be announced on Tuesday, the team. So, yeah, looking forward to that.
All right, Calvin Vlaanderen, thanks for joining us here, Team HRC. We'll speak to our next guest in a moment, Adam Wheeler, but before we do, let's catch up with some highlights from Lommel. Here's race 2 from MX2.
Another quick reaction from Jorge Prado, and guess what? It was Foxhole shot number 19 in the books for 2019. On board here with the GoPro with Jago Geerts in around 10th, 12th place as he came through the first turn, one-handed as he pulled roll-offs immediately. The 2 KTMs were up front. Vlaanderen was in 3rd as Jago Geerts once again went to town on his rivals, past both Kawasaki's here of Steri and Jacobi. And then he looked up and saw Thomas Olsen in his tracks. He breezed past the Dane, went after his teammate. Ben Watson was having a great ride despite severe blisters on his hands, having not ridden the last few weeks. It didn't stop him from charging his way up the inside of Vlaanderen as he tried to escape the clutches of his teammate, who was closing in fast and dancing his way around the outside of the number 10, Vlaanderen. The battle continued furiously and frantic as the circuit got rougher. A mistake from Watson allowed Geerts through. And then Watson all of a sudden was under attack from Vlaanderen. The South African tried to move around the outside, and it eventually paid off as Watson followed his teammate through on the inside. And Vlaanderen almost went by the Belgian as well. But Geerts stuck to the task. Meanwhile, in 2nd place, Tom Vial was having another fantastic ride, but wasn't long before Geerts had broken free from his rivals and moved past the Frenchman. Next to line up, the number 28 was the number 10. Vlaanderen made this move to move into 3rd. Watson wasn't far behind, and it wasn't long before the 919 also followed through. The heat, the circuit conditions starting to take their toll. Jacoby fell. His teammate ran into him. Sterry would eventually bounce back for 6. Jacoby would eventually come home in 12th place. But with just 3 laps to go, Jargo Kiet's race was over. He would not stand on the podium in front of his home fans this weekend. Final lap though, after doing everything right, Jorge Prado fell. Fortunately for him, he had a 30-second lead at that point, and he went on to take race win number 24 and his 13th Grand Prix victory of the season. 12 in a row now for the number 61. Villana on the podium second, Watson on the podium for the first time this year. But Prado now has 124 points over Thomas Olsen. Vial back up to third. Kiet loses third and drops to 4. But Ben Watson enjoyed his moment on the podium, so too did Villandren. And what about Jorge Prado? Well, he's moving closer. With just 4 rounds to go, the title is within his grasp once more.
Welcome back to part 2 on our live MXGP TV studio show here. Imola round 15 of the FIM Motocross World Championship with me and Lisa Leyland. Our second guest is in, Adam Wheeler on trackoffroad.com. Good to see you again, Adam. It's been a while.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
The second successive year here in Imola, and just walking through the paddock, there seems to be a real party atmosphere down at HRC, and for good reason. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's always been, well, always, it's the second year that the Grand Prix has been run here. It's quite an experimental track. I mean, it's a temporary one, so it's full credit to the organisers for the scale of the effort. But, you know, obviously HRC looking to wrap up, you know, a second World Championship, in 3 years? 4 years, 2016. So it's going to be a memorable Grand Prix, that's for sure. Second time here we're going to see a championship party, but then also things like the FIM e-Bicycle World Cup happening for the first time. So, you know, I think there's it's going to be like, you know, a milestone on the calendar, you could say.
And just briefly with Tim, his stats this year have been impressive, haven't they? Been on the just missed the podium one time. He's had 9 wins, and actually he's going to become just the 5th rider in Honda history to win 3 world titles for the brand.
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of milestones, and I actually have to give it to Lewis Phillips, actually, from MX Vice, who early on in the season called 2019 a little bit like the 2015 season when Roman Febvre won. There was, you know, not such much like a surprising amount of consistency from Tim, because he's obviously been there and done that, but there was injuries that affected the championship picture, and it was a series that, you know, went from a duel from Tony Cairoli and Tim Geiger very much turned on its head. I mean, the fact that Tim can wrap up the championship with 3 rounds still to go, I think is a record in itself. I mean, he kind of ties with Stefan Everts, I think, in 2006. Yeah. So, you know, that's a big achievement, and it shows, you know, how much I think he has turned things around after a very different winter period, you know, like not working so closely with his dad, working even tighter with the factory team, and it's paid dividends.
Well, and it absolutely showed last weekend as well. He even won at Lommel, the first time for him and for Honda in the Premier class. We have a clip here. It just seemed like everything has just clicked for him.
Yeah, and what's remarkable as well is that the last Grand Prix we really had in the sand, you know, anything remarkably similar to Lommel, I think he ended upside down 6 times on race day at Manchester. Yeah, it was, you know, after that Grand Prix, especially after, you know, the form him and Tony Cairoli had shown in their racing together, you kind of thought, well, you know, that's an nadir. That's a real low point. But he managed to come back from that. And some of the big crashes that we saw Tim have, you could say maybe he was fortunate to escape injury, especially after similar accidents in 2017, pretty much cast into the sidelines. You know, but yeah, you know, great recovery, brilliant consistency. Nobody really has looked like coming, I think, 7 Grand Prix in a row he won at one point. I mean, that was really when the championship was bedded in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, whilst Tim has dominated MXGP, we've seen Jorge Prado be unstoppable in MX2. But while Jorge prepares to move up next year, who else in the class has surprised you, impressed you, and who we can look out for next year?
I mean, Lisa, first of all, I mean, Prado's dominance is, you know, I never thought I'd see anybody as good on a 250 as Jeffrey Hurling's, but, you know, we're looking here, I think that's Tom Viala's, Jorge Prado's teammate. I mean, for a rookie, 5 podiums so far, I mean, fantastic. I mean, I don't think even KTM had those expectations. But, you know, we've had, behind all the dominance from Prado, 12 Grand Prix in a row, he's only 2 away from equaling Hurling's record from 2013. You know, you have 9 riders, I think, that made the podium last year, and we're already up to 9 in this championship with still 3 rounds to go.
Well, and one of them there was Guarame.
That's right, yeah, on the Honda. So, you know, there were 5 riders, I think, last year who made the, no, 3 riders who made the podium for the first time in MX2, and it's up to 5 this season. Yeah. So, you know, there is young talent pushing through. There are good signs behind, you know, when Jorge moves up and arguably creates the greatest Grand Prix team of all time with Tony Cairoli and Jeffrey Herlings.
And what about Jago? Jago Geerts?
Jago Geerts, I mean, I think he had a little bit more consistency to his season. That was what was missing last year. You know, he'd be fighting for top 5 positions. This was probably the highlight of the year, St. Jean d'Angely, the Grand Prix of France. You know, it's still the only ride really to beat Jorge Prado, you know, on 1-to-1. Yeah, Thomas Olsen's obviously done it as well, but, you know, problems as well for the Spaniard that day. But this was maybe the most thrilling moto we've had this year in MX2. And
in terms of him and podiums this year, has Jago Geerts kind of done what you expected him to do?
Yes.
He's improved his podium count, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So that's improvement.
I think, you know, he's shown he's on the fast track to, you know, being a championship contender next year. Still so young, of course, still 18, I believe. Ben Watson, you know, his teammate, I think, you know, you expected more podiums from him. He had, like, the broken hand, of course, but he's just on his first one from last week in Lommel, or 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, I think, you know, next year you've got to be looking at the Yamahas. They've sorted out some of the starts. I mean, behind the KTMs, they're arguably the best starting motorcycle in the MX2 gate, so that's an important ingredient.
Well, what about Mitch Evans? He's opened a few eyes as well this year. Do you think he'll stay in MX2 or move up?
If he hadn't had a few, sorry to cut across you, Lisa, if he hadn't had a few injury problems and you know, a few harsh learning curves, you could say, in Grand Prix, which you'd expect from a rookie, then you'd say, you know, he is the standout new name in the class this year. Moving up to the 450 next year, then that's going to be another big old lesson. But I think it's interesting that Honda, you know, are investing in him. I hope they stick with him and, you know, give him some time to learn. He's a big kid, big guy, so, you know, maybe that 450 is a better fit.
And so, going 450, which team? Or is he staying within the Honda confines?
Yeah, Honda confines. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, you see him as teammate to Tim Geiger, but let's see.
Okay. Well, obviously, shame we had our first guest on earlier, Calvin Villano, and shame for how his progress has gone this year. But you already mentioned Ben a moment ago. He has to feature heavily next year, doesn't he? Yeah,
last season in the class. I think there's at least 5 riders from this season that have to move up. They reached the age ceiling of 23, so they'll be in MXGP next year. Ben's still got 1 more season to go, and that's really, I think, you know, after 2018 where he pushed up to 4th in the world, you know, this year has been a little bit more about learning to cope with the pressure of having a harsher spotlight on him, having more expectation on him. You know, Yamaha are going to need to do their homework because the KTMs are unmatchable out of the gate into the first corner. If they can keep up those rate of starts, then I expect Ben to be a challenger. He has to be.
Okay, well, another rider moving up is Jacoby. He's added a couple more podiums this year, but perhaps should have been more, do you think?
Yeah, especially after the bright start to the season. You know, another step also for the German. I don't think I mean, you can cast him certainly as one of the leading riders in this category, but I think the team, maybe even himself, would have expected more. Certainly some of the German fans as well. You know, there's been flashes of brilliance, but then you kind of think, well, you know, are you battling for 8th this week, or are you going to be going for the podium again?
30 seconds left. Obviously, we can't rule out TKO, Thomas Kjærulsen. What about Maxime Renault, the Yamaha rider there at SM Action?
Yeah, I mean, in European classes, this Paul absolutely, you know, was the leading light. I think, you know, a badly broken arm pretty much, you know, sidelined him for a year.
2 years he had out.
Yeah. So it was, you know, he's somebody, again, I think Yamaha can, like, put a lot of chips behind because with Geerts, Watson, and also the Frenchman, then that's exciting stuff. And also bodes well for, you know, the Motocross of Nations. Is it 5 times champions now in a row? I mean, you know, they've still got fantastic talent like him and Tom Vial coming through.
All right, Adam, we are out of time. Thank you for your insight, as always. Adam Wheeler on trackoffroad.com. Right, our final guest is in the building waiting to come and see us, but let's meet him in a moment and catch up with some highlights from MXGP of Belgium Race 2.
After his physical exertions in Race 1, Romain Febvre was looking for a good start, but it wasn't to be. But back in the hunt was the number 99 of Max Anstey. He tiptoed around the inside and came out in around about 4th place as Tim Geiser took his 7th foxhole shot of the season and led the opening 3 laps of the race. Van Hoorbeek had the crowd on their toes as he was in 2nd on the opening lap, but was quickly passed by Anstey. Geiser tried to make a break for it, but the standing construct KTM of Anstey had other ideas as Jonas stalled, whilst in 7th position he rejoined the race in 19th. Geiser then came quickly under attack from the 99 of Anstey. One or two little mistakes there from the Honda rider allowed Anstey to close in. And by lap 4, we had a new leader as Anstey blitzed around the outside of the Slovenian and into the lead. The Brit was counting the cost of his crash in race 1. Koldenhoff, Van Horebeke went bar to bar as they challenged each other for 3rd place. The Belgian won the battle there briefly, but Koldenhoff eventually did go through. Fevre also followed the Dutchman through. Jasikonis, having a better start, was sitting there in around 6th place, but as Fevre went through, then Anstey threw away the lead in spectacular fashion with 6 laps remaining. He was 13 seconds clear at this point. Geiser sailed by into the lead. Meanwhile, Jeremy Van Horebeke's race started to fall apart. He hit the wall, Koldenhoff and Fevre both went by, then the Jerry man crashed out. He eventually came home in 7th place. The circuit was really starting to take its toll. Seewer also found his way past the Honda rider of Van Horebeke as he eventually came home in 5th place. But Anstey dug in deep, and with 3 laps to go, went around the outside of Geiser to take over the lead once more. The question was, could he keep it on 2 wheels to take his first ever MXGP race win? Jasikonis, just like his teammate, suffered some gremlins on his Husqvarna. Eventually came home in 6th. Max Anstey won the race. Tim Geiser won the GP. Koldenhoff came 3rd in the race and was back on the podium the first time this season. Geiser now leads Jeremy Seewer by 187 points as we head to round 15 in Italy. But the podium this weekend, Glenn Koldenhoff 3rd overall with 2 third-place finishes. Roman Fevre 2nd overall with a 1st and a 4th. Tim Geiser, though, 2 second places was enough for him to take his 9th Grand Prix win of the season. All he needs now to win the championship in Imola is an 8th place in race 1 if Seewer goes and wins it. Fantastic action here from Lommel. A tough day for everybody. There were some tired and weary faces up there, but they have 2 weeks to recover before round 15.
Hello everybody, welcome back to our 3rd and final part on our live studio show here on MXGPTV.com with myself and Lisa Leyland. Our final guest is in the house, Hans Corvers, team owner for Monster Energy Khmer Yamaha. Of course, that's the MX2 side. Last night there was a presentation actually in the media centre here, and it was announced that Louis Vosters of the Wolvo side takes the factory team, and Hans Corvers here next year will become Monster Energy Yamaha Factory MX2. Congratulations on your new appointment. You've been with Yamaha 23 years, and I guess as a rider, it's something you aspire to be a factory rider and see where that takes. But as a team owner, what does this mean to you, just briefly, to be given this responsibility as the MX2 factory team owner?
Yeah, it was a dream to be as rider or a factory rider. We didn't make it. Now we work already so long time, so hard. I think seven years now in MX2 World Championship, and finally, we become the factory status. But I want to say that with factory status, you can fight for a title. I saw the last 10-15 years, especially in MX2, all the private teams push so hard, but you cannot compete to grab the title if you're a private. You need the support from a brand.
Okay.
And I'm really happy. It have to, it will be different for sure.
Okay, well, how would you evaluate the season with 4 GPs to go? I mean, let's start with Jago. Has he done what you would expect from him? For
sure. He before the season we say, okay, we want to go with both riders in top 5. Mm-hmm. On the moment that Ben got his injury, we were 3 and 5, so we were on schedule. Jago, he did a few really nice races, and he's growing from not week to week, but month to month, and he will still growing. He has potential more than what he shows now, and he is 4 and 3 points from 3, so we're still fighting for the 3rd place. So we are completely on schedule, and I'm really happy with this performance.
Well, he does have 5 podiums and a race win, and not many riders can say that they actually beat Prado straight up like that. So clearly he has the speed and the hunger to win.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, we have to improve a little bit on the bike. We know we have a really good bike. It's really powerful, but we have to change a few things, and it's going to happen this winter, so we will be ready for next season.
Actually, where do you think he gets that hunger, that fight, that desire from? Because you talk to him, and he could, you know, he's scared of a feather, just really shy, really quiet, and then he puts his helmet on, and it's like he has this transformation.
Yeah, I know, but it's a really nice kid. He's a really nice guy, and he wake up and he opened his eyes with motocross, and he closed them with motocross. There was only one thing in his life. I never saw a kid, a young, because he's 19. I never saw somebody like him. You cannot take him to somewhere to drink. Now we were in Indonesia. Between the 2 races, he is really professional. I never saw like that. He had only one goal, and he do everything for that. Unbelievable.
What about Ben? Obviously, it's been a frustrating year. We mentioned it a moment ago. He got his injury in Germany, but he finally got his podium in the sand in Lommel. Obviously, his strength is the sand riding, and he finally made it in Lommel. I mean, big day for him, and I guess great for you to see that.
Yeah, and honestly, nobody expect this podium in Lommel. Normally, it was Jago. He deserved the podium there. But anyway, last year Ben came to Kemea Yamaha, and he finished 4. He did much better than everybody expected. Yeah. He came from the year before with 15 or 16 plays in the World Championship. So he did a great improvement. So now, for this season, he really wanted to go in top 3. And he struggled in the beginning. And then he was racing against himself. He was not smooth. It was always under pressure. But himself, not from us, not the team, not really not from Yamaha, but he wanted to do better. And also, what I have to say, the young kid, the 19-year, he come and he push him, and now it's they're battle together. Huh? Last year was Ben overall faster than Jago, but this season is the opposite. And now Ben, okay, he had an injury, he came back, nobody expected him, included him. He is free for riding, and you see again the Ben Watson. So from our side, I think that he will be the next rounds that we have to go. He will do good.
As you say, we just saw Ben on the podium there, but mixed emotions for you though, I guess, because happy for Ben, but heartbroken for Jago. He rode so hard. Do you think if he would have made 2 good starts with Prado, he could have won last week in Belgium? Or would it still be difficult? It would have been a lot closer. It will be difficult because in that case, I have to be also honest. The second heat, he was second round on the second place. And the first 2-3 laps, he lost per lap about 1 second on Prado. So I think it will be really difficult. But sure, if Jago was really directly on second place in the reel of Prado get nervous, because we know already if they can beat 3-4 laps really close to Gorky, he get nervous. He get nervous.
Yeah. Well, we've got 4 rounds to go. I'm guessing the goal for Jago now is to get him to 3rd in the championship. Would you be happy with that?
Sure, everybody. This is it should be. Yeah, then we reach our goal for this season. We're close by, and it's nice that it's a battle. Now the 2 young guys, they're I think quite, from age the same, Tom and Jago. Yeah, 3 points different. Now let him go. Let him do. It's nice also for the crowd.
Okay, we've got about 45 seconds. Time for one quick social media question.
Very quick question on social media for you. What was Hans Corvers' secret for always taking the whole shot back in the day? And this is from Kevin Strobos.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. If I go left or in the middle or the right, from the 10 times I took 8-9 times whole shot. I don't know why. The reflection was there, and also to say, I was 20 kilo less than today. So it helps also.
All right, well, look, Kevin Strybos, I hope that answered your question. And good luck this weekend,
I don't
by
want
the
to
way.
say that you have to lose kilos. That's enough. But for me, it was 20 kilos different.
Exactly. Well, look, sadly, we are out of time here. We'll be back in Sweden in 1 week's time. But don't forget, we're back live on MXGP TV today at 10 to 2 with the first EMX two-stroke race. And then from 4 o'clock with women, MX2 and MXGP qualifying. Enjoy the day. Enjoy your weekend wherever you are. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.